Hidden codes in Serbian frescoes. Our alien ancestors? Prepare yourselves, dear listeners, for today we shall embark on an inconceivable journey through centuries into the very heart of mysteries frozen upon the walls of ancient Serbian monasteries. Have you ever pondered what man truly is? From where did he come? What is his true purpose in this disordered and astonishing universe? Cast aside conventional notions, for what I am about to tell you may overturn your understanding of history, art, and even, dare I say, yourself. This is not merely a tale, it is an invitation to gaze into an abyss from which not only the faces of saints stare back at us, but also something that transcends our imagination. Something that makes the heart beat faster with the premonition of a great discovery. We shall travel to Serbia, a country that preserves within its mountains and valleys countless treasures of Byzantine art, a country where every stone breathes history and legend. But it is not for the usual beauties of frescoes that we hunt. Oh no. A different, far deeper enigma beckons us, which, like an invisible thread, pierces these sacred images, compelling even the most skeptical minds to ponder the ineffable. What if the ancient masters, these nameless icon painters, knew something that was hidden from mere mortals? What if they, inspired not only by divine revelation, but also by some other secret knowledge, left us messages encrypted in gold and azure, in the faces of saints and scenes from the gospel? We shall attempt to decipher these messages, these whispers from the depths of centuries, which may shed light on the most sacred mystery, the mystery of human origin. Imagine the dim interior of an ancient monastic temple where the air seems steeped in prayers and the smoke of incense, where every ray of light piercing through narrow windows animates myriad dust motes dancing in an eternal waltz. The walls, ceilings, arches, everything is covered with frescoes, created over long centuries of painstaking labor, patience, and perhaps some sacred madness. And then, amidst the familiar images of the Last Judgment, the lives of saints, and scenes from the Old Testament, details begin to emerge that seem alien, strange, almost otherworldly. Distorted proportions, unusual garments, symbols that defy unambiguous interpretation, all this causes surprise and, truth be told, a slight uneasiness. Could it be that something more than merely religious iconography is hidden in these images? Could an invisible world, the key to which we have lost, lie behind the ordinary facade? One of the most striking examples that excites the minds of researchers and mystery enthusiasts is the famous White Angel from Milosevo Monastery. This image, painted almost 8 centuries ago, evokes not only aesthetic admiration, but also profound questions. The angel, sitting on a stone by Christ's empty tomb, is depicted with incredible tenderness and sorrow, yet his appearance sometimes seems so detached, so perfect, that one begins to feel as if before us is not an earthly being, but a guest from other worlds. His garments, snow white and radiant, seem to emit an unearthly light. But this is just the beginning. If one looks closer, one can notice that his face, despite all its ideality, possesses a strange, almost alien beauty. His eyes are deep and fathomless, and his facial features seem too regular, too symmetrical to be exclusively human. Perhaps this is merely artistic exaggeration, an aspiration to the ideal. But what if it is not so? What if the artist, unknowingly or conversely knowing full well, depicted something that is an archetype of another, higher intelligence, who was a witness or even a participant in the creation of man? After all, legends and myths of all peoples of the world are full of stories about divine messengers coming from the heavens to instruct humanity. Could this white angel be one such testimony? But Milosevo is far from the only case. Seek and you shall find. Journey to Sopochani Monastery, where 14th century frescoes astound with their dynamism and richness of colors. Here, among scenes of the Dormation of the Theotokos, there are details that also provoke thought. A keen eye may catch something unusual in the depictions of saints and angels. Some of them appear to have unnaturally long limbs, or their heads seem disproportionately large relative to their bodies. Could this simply be a stylistic peculiarity? Or, as some suggest, could it be an attempt to depict beings whose anatomy differs from human, but who were nevertheless involved in our appearance? It is not for nothing that ancient texts of many civilizations speak of gods who possessed special appearances and abilities utterly unlike our own. What if the masters of Sopochani, while working on these frescoes, drew upon some forgotten traditions, upon oral accounts passed down from generation to generation through centuries about those who came from above, and brought with them the spark of life and knowledge? Let us move further in time and space to the frescoes of Grotchanikom Monastery, built at the beginning of the 14th century. Here, in scenes dedicated to the creation of the world, one can discover astonishing details that literally scream their ambiguity. Images of God the Father creating Adam are often depicted with a kind of cosmic energy, with a halo that resembles not just a radiance of holiness, but something technological, unseen, something that could be interpreted as a kind of apparatus or device. Is it possible that ancient artists tried to depict what they saw or heard about certain celestial chariots? About shining discs that furrowed the expanses of the sky? Indeed, some apocryphal texts, not included in the main canon, contain very unambiguous descriptions of fiery chariots and flying thrones that could have been a source of inspiration for these enigmatic images. And if so, what does this mean for our understanding of creation? Was it not only the result of a divine act, but also of some high-tech intervention that ancient people could only explain as a miracle? Allow me to delve into the details, my dear seekers of truth. Recall the frescoes of Dečani Monastery, a treasury containing over 1,000 images, created in the middle of the 14th century. Here, on the walls of the refectory, in scenes of the Last Judgment, amidst crowds of sinners and righteous, a discerning eye can distinguish something quite unusual. In the heavens, above scenes of the resurrection of the dead, images are sometimes found that absolutely do not fit into traditional iconography. These are not merely clouds. These are not simply stylized heavenly spheres. These are certain objects with distinct symmetrical shapes, sometimes resembling either flying machines or spacecraft, from which rays of light emanate. One such object, depicted in a fresco titled The Crucifixion, looks like some kind of apparatus with a cabin from which a figure, resembling a person in a helmet, peers out. Another object, located on the other side of the cross, has a similar shape. Is this merely an artist's mistake? Or perhaps imagination? But why such an imagination, so remarkably similar to modern conceptions of extraterrestrial craft? In the Middle Ages, when these frescoes were created, there were no airplanes, no rockets. Where then did these images come from? Could the monk artists have been witnesses to some celestial phenomena that they could only explain as divine providence or the advent of angels, but which in their essence were something entirely different? Or did they receive knowledge from some ancient forgotten sources describing visits to our planet by beings from other worlds? Perhaps the most intriguing aspect is how these anomalies fit into the overall context of religious art. They do not jarringly stand out. They are as if woven into the fabric of the narrative, barely noticeable, yet present. These are not random strokes or errors. These are conscious, though perhaps allegorical, depictions. And here arises the question, who were these artists? Were they simply pious monks fulfilling the will of their abbots? Or were there among them those who had access to certain esoteric knowledge passed down by word of mouth from generation to generation through centuries of persecution and oblivion? Indeed, history is full of examples of secret societies, mystical orders guarding ancient secrets. Could this knowledge, somehow connected with the true origin of man and his connection to the cosmos, have found its reflection in sacred art? Let us not forget the influence of ancient texts, which may have been accessible to monk scribes and artists. Besides canonical scriptures, there was a vast number of apocryphal, heretical teachings, Gnostic texts, which contained descriptions of the universe, creation, and human destiny significantly differing from the generally accepted ones. These texts often contain references to fallen angels, to watchers, to beings who interfered in human affairs and brought with them both knowledge and destruction. Could the frescoes have been a visual embodiment of these forbidden knowledge, a way to preserve them for future generations, disguised as commonly accepted religious subjects? For a visual image often acts much more powerfully and penetrates deeper than the most eloquent word. These hypotheses should not be dismissed as empty speculation. After all, human history is full of examples of how mad ideas eventually turned out to be true. Once, people believed that the earth was flat and the sun revolved around it. Today, we know how mistaken these notions were. What if, in the matter of human origin, we are also mistaken, clinging to the narrow confines of habitual explanations? The frescoes of Serbia, these silent witnesses of centuries, as if invite us to cast aside dogmas and prejudices, to look at the world with new eyes, the eyes of an inquisitive researcher who is not afraid to ask the most uncomfortable questions and seek answers where no one expects them. So, what can we glean from these ancient mysteries? First and foremost, it is a call to knowledge, a call not to stop at the superficial, not to accept generally accepted truths on faith, but always to strive for a deeper understanding. These frescoes are a kind of portals to the past, which, upon careful examination, can open new horizons for us. They tell us that the world is much more complex and mysterious than we are used to thinking, that human history holds many more surprises than recorded in textbooks. They urge us to further research, to study not only art, but also ancient texts, legends, myths, to seek connections between seemingly completely different cultures and epochs. Perhaps the solution to the origin of man lies not in distant galaxies, but right here, on the walls of ancient monasteries, in those images that we have looked at for hundreds of years, but have not seen. Let us dare to look at them anew, with an open heart and an inquiring mind, for only in this way can we approach the truth, which perhaps has always been before our eyes. Open your minds to the incredible, and let these ancient frescoes become your guide to a world where reality intertwines with myth, and the past holds the keys to the future.